sent us a truly compelling stack of material zeroing in on the singular talent of Japanese artist Katsuya Terada.
Yeah, we got some really insightful pieces here. There's stuff from Cook and Becker, Anime News Network, and also a really interesting YouTube interview. It all paints a picture of a career that's kind of hard to pin down.
Exactly. And your mission, should you choose to, well, immerse yourself, is to really get a handle on Terada's career path, the core of his artistic thinking, and those key influences that shaped his style, which is just so distinctive.
Right. We want to get the essence without getting totally bogged down.
Let's dive in. So, Katsuya Terada, born December 7th, 1963, in Tamano, Okayama Prefecture, Japan.
And right away, that nickname is fascinating. King Scribbler, or Rakuga King.
Rakuga King.
Yeah, it comes from rakugaki, the Japanese word for scribble or doodle. And it's not just catchy, it really hints at his whole philosophy.
It feels so right, doesn't it? When you look at the sheer amount of work and the variety, it's not just one thing.
Not at all. You've got advertising, book illustration, manga, video games, huge stuff.
And movies like Hellboy, Blood, The Last Vampire, even Godzilla, Final Wars.
Plus Japanese TV shows, Magic, The Gathering cards, some more obscure manga too. It's just prolific.
An incredible range.
And what's really interesting is how moving between all these different fields seems to feed his creativity. He keeps that signature style, that quality, no matter if it's a game or a movie concept.
Yeah, that adaptability seems key to understanding that whole scribbling idea. He's always finding new places for that core urge to just draw.
Definitely. And he seems to genuinely love the act itself. Those free-form live drawing events you mentioned.
Incredible. A bit like Kim Jong-gi, right? Just generating these huge, detailed pieces on the spot, no sketches.
Yeah, it shows his deep well of visual ideas he can just pull from. And then there are the solo shows, the art books. The man just lives drawing.
So that King Scribbler title, it really gets to the heart of it.
It does. He actually calls himself a rakugaki artist. He emphasizes this constant scribbling, letting his hand just go, exploring ideas without worrying too much about the final meaning right away. It's about making marks.
That's fascinating because he seems to push back against being labeled just a character designer or just a manga artist, even though he's brilliant at both.
Right. It's like the label itself feels too small for that fundamental need to just create lines.
So calling himself a scribbler is almost a statement, embracing something more instinctive.
Exactly. He talks about drawing like it's a physical need.
Yeah.
He compared his daily routine to how a marathon runner prepares.
Wow.
Yeah, he said something like, the more time I spend on drawing, the closer I get to that line that I am imagining. So each day, each scribble, refines his ability to capture what's in his head. It's the process.
Okay, let's back up a little. What were the early influences? What got him started on this path?
Well, apparently, even back in elementary school, his drawing and painting stood out. He said he wasn't great at academics, so he naturally leaned into art. And like a lot of Japanese boys, he was reading tons of manga, Weekly Shonen Jump, all that stuff.
He actually wanted to be a cartoonist at first, right, but worried about the story side.
Yeah, the whole coming up with plots thing, that's a common hurdle. So he thought maybe book illustration would be, quote, an easier way. Just focus on the images.
But then came a big discovery.
Huge. Around age 15, he found Moebius, the French cartoonist, and Katsuhiro Otomo, Akira.
Wow. Moebius and Otomo, that's a powerful combination.
For him, it was this perfect blend. You had the super clean, precise lines from European comics, but combined with the energy and dynamism of manga, it just opened up whole new possibilities.
And Moebius was particularly huge for him.
Oh, definitely. He calls Moebius a giant presence. Moebius showed him that manga characters didn't have to be super stylized. They could be more realistic. He was really drawn to Moebius's line work, maybe the world building in those lines too.
After high school, he went to art college in Tokyo.
Asagaya College of Art and Design. His first jobs were in advertising, and apparently he did okay pretty quickly, got his own small apartment.
Working on a borrowed drafting table, maybe?
Probably something like that. And then when he was 21, he gets this really important call.
From an animator, right? Toshio Nishiuchi.
Yep. For a Nintendo NES game. Detective Jinguji Saburo Shinjuku Central Park Murder Case. Quite a title.
Yeah.
The publisher, Data East, thought the original designs were too cute, too soft.
So they brought Terada in to make it more hard-boiled.
Exactly. And it wasn't just characters. It was backgrounds, the manual art, even the logo.
That must have been intense for a young artist. What does hard-boiled mean in that context, really? Grittier?
Yeah, usually more mature, serious, maybe a bit noirish. less cartoony, more grounded designs. That job probably really honed his ability to adapt, and it opened doors in the Japanese game industry.
But he also reached audiences outside Japan, didn't he? Through Nintendo Power Magazine.
Oh yeah, between 89 and 95, those illustrations for Zelda, Link's Awakening, and A Link to the Past.
Oh man, I remember those. They were amazing. They showed you so much more than the NES could. Really fired up your imagination about Hyrule.
Totally. They filled in the gaps, gave players these stunning interpretations. They were crucial for how Western players saw those early Zelda games.
He also did the box art for the Japanese Prince of Persia on SNES, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Another really iconic piece.
And jumping forward a bit, Virtua Fighter 2 for Sega in '94, that was a huge deal visually.
Absolutely. Groundbreaking 3D fighter. And he did the character designs, embracing that new level of realism.
He was really into it, apparently.
So into it, he tried to get a Virtua Fighter 2 arcade machine installed in his apartment.
No way.
Yeah. Apparently the stairs were too narrow and the voltage was wrong, so it was a whole thing. But it shows how invested he gets.
That's dedication. Okay, beyond games, he's also huge in manga. The Monkey King.
The Monkey King Aion II. Full-color manga, his own take on the classic Chinese story.
And people consider it some of his best work.
Almost universally, yeah. Reviewers rave about the energy, the intricate detail. They call it Baroque, sometimes the line work, and especially his use of color. Just, wow.
The color in that is supposed to be amazing, right? Really vibrant, but still textured.
Exactly. It's not just flat, bright colors like some manga.
Yeah.
It has depth. It really shows off his unique visual style.
Speaking of that style, his personal work, his free work, as he calls it.
Yeah, it's captivating, this whole universe of characters. You can still see the Moebius and Otomo influence, even now.
But it's definitely his own thing. He draws these really expressive, kind of futuristic characters, realistically rendered.
But in total unrealistic, dreamlike settings. And when you look close at the big pieces, they're made of these dense, complex networks of scribbles. It's incredible line control.
It's like he's always sketching in his head, building this massive visual library.
Right. He talks about seeing objects and instantly thinking about how they translate into lines. He's not just trying to copy reality. He wants to create worlds you haven't seen before.
And he used traditional tools for a long time. Markers, paints.
All sorts. Water-based markers, paints, brush pens, pencils. But eventually he moved into digital too.
Uses an iPad now for sketching.
Yeah, a 13-inch iPad. He likes the speed and portability, apparently, for catching ideas quickly.
But he's clear the tool itself isn't the main point.
Not at all. It's about getting the image from his head onto the surface, whether it's paper or screen. He said, my right hand is my most reliable tool. It's about that mind-hand connection.
Which brings us to, well, the unavoidable topic these days, AI in art.
Yeah, he's thought about it. Even tried using it briefly.
And his take is interesting. He compared AI gathering data to how artists draw on their own experiences.
Kind of, yeah. He sees a parallel there. He doesn't think the tech itself is inherently bad.
But he has concerns.
Mostly about the ethics. You know, companies potentially profiting from AI trained on copyrighted work without permission or payment. That struggle for balance. But he thinks it could be positive, depending on who uses it and how.
Going back to his core beliefs, he still sees himself primarily as a manga artist.
First and foremost, yeah. And for him, the main goal is entertainment, connecting with the viewer, making them feel something, joy, or maybe sadness.
And he sees his past work as building blocks, always looking for ways to improve.
Totally. Always finding more to refine. And he mentioned Monkey King again as being really important for cementing that desire to be a manga artist.
He seems to see art as this big wave connecting people across time and cultures.
Yeah, drawing inspiration from Japanese artists, old masters like Hokusai, but also international figures like Moebius. And he hopes his work sparks wonder internationally, expands people's creative minds.
Now that he's around 60 or so, has his approach changed?
Based on that 2023 interview, it seems his focus is more on sharpening the skills he already has, rather than actively hunting for brand new inspirations.
Though he did hint at some secret influence.
Huh. Yeah, he mentioned friends send him stuff on social media, but he tries not to look too much to avoid accidentally copying. But then he sort of playfully mentioned a secret current influence. Who knows?
His work often mixes organic and mechanical stuff, humans and machines.
Right. You talked about that. He had this childhood vision of a super bright tech future that maybe didn't quite happen that way.
But he tries not to be pessimistic.
Yeah, he adapts. He sees tech, like his phone, as just another tool for connection, like animals and plants are part of the planet. So he puts machines, plants, animals, humans all together in his art to reflect that.
Someone asked him about drawing himself as an old man.
Yeah, he laughed it off, saying he basically is an old man already and probably draws himself subtly sometimes anyway.
We definitely have to come back to Moebius, though. The influence is just so huge for him.
Absolutely massive, a giant presence, he called it, foundational since he was 15.
He feels like Moebius enabled his art.
In a way, yeah, he calls himself a Moebius child. He sees the style he got from Moebius as, like, a weapon, a powerful tool.
And he tries to pass that knowledge on.
Yeah, when younger artists like his work but don't know Moebius, he tries to explain the connection. Feels like he's in a phase of passing on that influence he received.
Wow. It really comes down to the drawing itself for him, doesn't it?
Completely. He said not being able to draw would feel like not being able to breathe.
That fundamental.
Yeah, just the act of making lines with a pencil since childhood, that's been the joy. Even with all the success in games and movies, his core is manga.
Though he feels like a newcomer in manga sometimes, because the output is so demanding.
Right. Professional manga artists have to produce so much, so fast. He said he only really started getting known by his own name around age 30.
And he's still pushing himself, trying to be a little better every day.
Constantly. Even when he's not physically drawing, he's often drawing in his head.
He even speculated about drawing without hands.
Yeah, he mused that even then, he'd still be drawing mentally, and there'd be some kind of enjoyment in that too. It's just who he is.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? We've looked at Katsuya Terada, this artist who's hard to box in, just driven by the sheer act of creation.
Yeah, from dreaming of maybe an easier path to becoming this absolute king scribbler across so many fields. His journey really shows the power of taking your influences, but making something totally unique.
Think about his whole approach, that constant practice, building that visual library piece by piece, and how he engages with new technology. What are the scribbles, the things you're pursuing right now that might grow into something amazing?
This has been the Art Deep Dive Podcast. For more deep dives into artists and visual culture, definitely check out the Art Deep Dive Podcast YouTube channel.
Yeah, please like and subscribe over there for more explorations into the world of art.